All right, if we're asked to solve this system by graphing, we just need to graph these two linear equations. We'll go through two methods of doing that real fast. First and foremost, I'll pick this equation, so y equals negative 2x plus 1. Generally speaking, we just need a couple points. If we have 2 points, preferably 3 points, we can graph any line. How do we find points? Well, you just choose values for x and find out what the associated value for y is. So for instance, if I let x equal 0, I'm going to plug that in and find out what y becomes. So I get negative 2 times 0 plus 1. That gives me that y equals 1. So I have 1 point. The first point here is that when x is 0, y is 1. That point on the rectangular coordinate system here is x is 0, y is 1 is right there. I could choose another one, so I'll just let x equal 1. You might be thinking, why am I choosing these numbers? There's no specific reason. I'm just choosing small numbers, so it's easy. So now I'm plugging in 1 for x, so I get negative 2 times 1 plus 1. That gives me negative 2 plus 1 gives me negative 1. So my next point is x is 1 and y is negative 1. And that point right here is x. By the way, just to remind you, this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. So I go over to 1 on the x and down to negative 1 on the y-axis. And let's just do one more point just for fun. Let's just do x equals 2. I'll plug that in. Y equals negative 2 times 2 plus 1. And I compute that all out to get negative 4 plus 1 as a negative 3. That last point then gives me that when I plug in a 2 for x, I get a negative 3 out for y. And I'll plot that 2 and then negative 3 right here. Let me now draw in a straight line connecting those dots. Now the second way to graph a linear equation is use a slope-intercept form, which comes across as y equals mx plus b. The m is this value in front of the x, the 1/2 in this case, and the b is this negative 4 minus 4 right there. From this equation, what I get is that my slope is 1 over 2. That's a rise of 1 and a run of 2. And that my y-intercept is 0, negative 4. And again, this 1/2 comes from the coefficient in front of the x. The 0, negative 4 comes from the minus 4 right here. Again, this is called slope-intercept form, and you could look up more on graphing with slope-intercept form if you're interested. But what I would do with that, and let me use a different color here, I would start at my y-intercept at 0, negative 4, which is right down here. I would then apply my slope to find my next point. Now again, my slope is go up 1 and then go to the right 2 is how I read that. So up 1 over 2, my next point would be right here at x equals 2, y equals negative 3. Then I'm going to draw a straight line connecting those 2 points. And then the solution to the system are where those 2 lines intersect, and that happens right here. And that point has an x value of 2 and a y value of negative 3. Or in other words, I could write that as an ordered pair as 2, negative